Lewis Hamilton fires back at critics calling him harsh with his engineer at the Aussie GP. Can Ferrari shake off their struggles and turn things around in China? Let's buckle up. It seems like Lewis Hamilton's transition to a new team has been a bit of a bumpy ride, especially with the spotlight being on him during his Australia debut for Ferrari. The change in engineers from Peter Bonington, his longtime Mercedes engineer, to Riccardo Adami has put additional pressure on him. The radio exchanges where Hamilton repeatedly said, "Leave me to it, please," certainly caught people's attention, with some perceiving them as a bit tense. Martin Brundle's description of the exchanges as angsty reflects the nature of the situation. Hamilton was clearly trying to find his rhythm in a new environment while dealing with the added challenge of a race that didn't go as planned. Hamilton finishing 10th in Melbourne only added to the scrutiny. Hamilton's response to the criticisms is important here. It's likely that his comments were a way of asserting control and focusing on the race without being distracted. It's not uncommon for drivers to express frustration or to ask for space when things aren't going their way. But when you're Lewis Hamilton and in such a high-profile team switch, every word on the radio becomes magnified. "Everyone over-egged the situation," he said ahead of the Chinese Grand Prix. "It was literally just a back and forth. I was very polite in how I suggested it. I said, 'Leave it to me, please.' I wasn't saying F you, I wasn't swearing. It was just at that point I was really struggling with the car, and I needed full focus on a couple of things. We're getting to know each other. He had 2 champions or more in the past, and there are no issues between us." Hamilton then shifted his focus to the other drivers on the grid, with a special eye on his 2021 title rival Max Verstappen. "Go and listen to the radio calls with others and their engineers. It's far worse," he continued. Conversations that Max has had with his engineer over the years and the abuse that the poor guy has taken. And you never write about it, but you write about the smallest little discussion I have with mine. We're literally just getting to know each other. Afterwards, I'm like, "Hey, bro, I don't need that bit of information, but if you want to give me this is the place I like to do it. This is how I'm feeling in the car, and at these points, this is what this is, when I do and don't need the information. That's what it's about. There are no issues and it's done with a smiley face and we move forward." It's not uncommon for radio messages to feature some colourful language, but with the FIA introducing a new rule in the 2025 regulations, swearing during press conferences is now being met with fines. Red Bull, it seems, isn't particularly bothered by Verstappen's occasional radio outbursts either. In fact, the team recently appeared to take a subtle jab at Hamilton through social media, posting an image of Verstappen and his engineer, GP Lambiase, celebrating a world title, with their initials as the caption. Lambiase, who's known for his no-nonsense approach, has also come to Verstappen's defence regarding the radio exchanges. Reflecting on the 2024 season, he shared his thoughts, explaining why such moments are part of the intensity of racing. "What you hear on the broadcast, that's not necessarily Max. That's him with the adrenaline at the time. As much as he has this bravado, he will absorb every piece of information that goes through his ears. And that's his real strength. We can always rely on him in the heat of the moment to do the right thing." Meanwhile, pundit Ralf Schumacher didn't hold back, accusing both Hamilton and his teammate Charles Leclerc of being stroppy over the radio during recent races. Former F1 driver Christian Danner also weighed in, advising Hamilton to get to grips with the Ferrari system instead of expecting Ferrari to adapt to him. It's clear that there's a lot of pressure on Hamilton as he adjusts to his new team. And get a grip Hamilton did. Hamilton outpaced Red Bull's Max Verstappen in qualifying, with his Ferrari teammate Charles Leclerc securing 4th and Lando Norris putting McLaren in 6th, en route to not only a pole start in tomorrow's sprint race but also setting the fastest lap ever set in the Shanghai circuit. After a challenging debut weekend in Australia, where he qualified 8th and finished 9th, the 7-time champion shared his thoughts. "I'm a bit taken aback by it. I didn't know when we would get to this position, and after last weekend it was a difficult start to the week. I came here with aggression and wanting to go into the weekend and get the car into a great place. I started out straight away with a better feeling in the car, and I can't believe we are at the front. I am just a bit gobsmacked. Despite his record-breaking 104th race pole positions, starting in first place for the sprint race is a rare feeling for Hamilton. His only previous sprint pole came at the 2021 British Grand Prix, where he was overtaken by Verstappen off the line and had to settle for second in the 17-lap dash. Hamilton's most recent race pole was at the 2023 Hungarian Grand Prix, 20 months ago. In Shanghai, Hamilton outqualified Leclerc by 0.2 and Norris by 0.5. Even though it's not the main pole, it gives me real inspiration to go into tomorrow and try to find more performance and see if we can compete again. There's definitely a little more performance to find for sure. On the other side of the garage, Charles Leclerc had this to say about his performance. I struggled on my side of the garage. From the beginning I felt I was a step back from Lewis and he was just faster. Struggled a lot in turns 1, 2 and 3, which is the same as last year more or less. Apart from that, everything was quite tight. It's a shame we start P4, but Lewis is on pole and hopefully we can have a strong race. Verstappen took second place, while McLaren's Oscar Piastri secured third, followed by Leclerc, Mercedes' George Russell and Norris. Norris, who triumphed in the season's opening race in Australia under wet conditions from pole, struggled in the final part of sprint qualifying in China, making mistakes on both of his laps. I made a mistake. I locked up in the last corner, Norris said. But we're just struggling a bit more now. Just not quick enough, simply. This was me just trying to push a bit too much. Just need to back off a little bit and not try to push too much. I think the car's still good, and in a good window. Maybe not good enough for pole. But we can definitely go forward. In the sprint. Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur expressed that the result highlighted the intense competition between the top 4 teams, emphasizing how challenging it is to get the cars into the perfect setup and ensure the tyres perform at their best. Vasseur added, "The day was a bit difficult to read. McLaren was in front this morning, and in Q1 we were in front, Q2 they were mega, Q3 we were back. I think it is linked to tyre management. If you are not in the right window, you are struggling a lot, but it is good for the team. We had a tough weekend in Melbourne, but the Friday was good. It is a bit like this weekend, very up and down. It is exactly the same picture as last year. The last 4 races, 3 or 4 teams were able to win by 30 seconds from track to track depending on the tyres. So how do you think things will turn out for Lewis tomorrow in the sprint race? Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching, everybody.